Thank you for having me in studios, Kasumba. And I would like to say that the context of this loss is premised on a couple of things. We're looking at high maintenance cost of the fleet. We're looking at crew costs, for example, training of pilots and the crew. We're looking at legacy contracts that we inherited that are high. We're looking at fuel costs. We're looking at the cost of operation. We're looking at route expansion. And you remember that we opened Mumbai, we opened Lagos last year. The initial cost of opening a route or developing these routes is really high. But also when you look at our ground handling costs in these different destinations is also high. But also most importantly, I think we should look at things like social impact of the airline. And I know that there is this talk of, we've been talking about, the airline is a gateway to the country, but there is so much that the airline is doing. And I always pose a question and I say, if we pulled out this airline economy now, what would happen? Because we've just looked at the statistics right now. The traffic that we bring to Entebbe International Airport, or our contribution to Entebbe International Airport in terms of traffic, 23.6%. We're breathing life into the aviation sector. You can see we are skilling, upskilling, and also reskilling different teams to be able to handle some of these things, but also causing optimism into the sector for new generation aviators to be able to uptake some of these jobs. So these are some of the things that the airline is doing besides looking at loss in itself.
The airline business is a very complicated one, and you make a point there. But still talking optimism, is it true that there is a reduction in loss between this year and last year? And if that's so, what are you doing differently?
Yes, and also before I get into that, we forget also that we have challenges in operations like blocked funds. When you look at some countries where our money has been held because of, and also forex exposures. We look at in Mumbai, our money was held there for some time. We look at Nigeria, our money was held there for some time. We look at Burundi, we could not pull our money back. So we had, of course, loss in our operating income. So that, to put that aside, what we're doing differently here, we've restructured our cost. For example, cost management initiatives that we put in place, like self-handling. We're handling ourselves at our hub in Entebbe. As you're aware, we've also reduced our consumptive onboard lines. For example, food portions have been reduced. And then also when you look at, and that is managing cost in itself, when you look at our wages also went down, salaries were restructured, and some benefits were pulled away from staff. So some of these things that have supported the airline, but also we leased the A320 to be able to increase revenue, but also to deploy more capacity or seats on some of these routes. We've increased frequencies on a couple of routes like Nairobi, 3 times daily, and also Johannesburg, we increased 7 days or 7 times weekly. We also increased Kinshasa and also Dar es Salaam now flying daily. And these are some of the initiatives that we've put in place. Good. But also we looked at reviewing contracts, because we inherited legacy contracts. So we reviewed these contracts to be able to manage our cost structure.
Okay. Let's just look at moving forward. What is the airline up to, and what plans do you have moving forward as well in the growth direction, and also managing and mitigating losses?
When we look at our future, or 2025, we're very optimistic that the airline is moving into the right direction. And you could see the contraction of the loss of 26% in the year of review 2023-2024. We expect that it will contract further, but also bearing in mind that we have London this year coming up, and the cost of operating to Gatwick will also hemorrhage. the airline's bottom line. But also, notwithstanding, we'll look at entry points into Saudi Arabia, Jeddah and Riyadh. We'll look at Accra, Ghana. We'll look at Cape Town. All these will, of course, have initial costs, startup costs that also will kind of bring, the airline at some point to its knees. But still, we still soldier on. And then also we're looking at increasing our fleet. For example, leasing, on leasing arrangements this year. We want to bring in 2 mid-range to be able to deploy more seat capacities on some of our routes, since we will be defeeding and feeding our network. And then also we're looking at still managing costs like fuel. We've put mechanisms in place because fuel is one of the biggest contributors to our losses. And yes.